Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and woo! Boy, we are going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. We are going to talk about the D&D 1.1, the D&D OGL, Open Gaming License 1.1 leak. And we're going to talk about the D&D community's reaction to this. And let's get into this. And I appreciate your patience. And I'm like every other creator now. They're like, people don't even know, how to title these things or how to set the frame around this. Because the D&D OGL 1.1 leak, this subject is an absolute explosion of emotion and investment and engagement. It's pretty, everybody's talking about it. It is the hotness right now. It's absolutely incredible what's happening with this, and I'm absolutely astounded how by the way, I'm an intense, adamant guy. Like I'm very aware of this, right? And so I have to manage it, right? Get very passionate about things, and I defend things, and and I'm always, and when it comes to language, I'm always willing to jump into the fray of a communication front line, right? Like I want my virtual greatsword to be there, and I want to be in the mix, right? And I'm going to say thank you to YouTube because it allows me to be, right? I'm able to talk about Dungeons & Dragons minute to minute. Like, actually, tell the truth, day to day, right? I can respond to anything that happens on Dungeons & Dragons within 24 hours. And because of YouTube's incredible work, right? And incredible corporate guardianship of American communication, I'm able to know that whatever I got to say about D&D is going to catch a global audience within 24 hours. And I know that 10 years from now, people will be able to see that same video, right? And no other platform does that. I want to say thank you to YouTube. And so let's get into this. This is absolutely incredible. So I talked about it's insane. It is so outrageously outlandish. Okay, so check this out. I talked about the 2022 D&D Winter Firestorm. What was it even about? Right? Like, it wasn't even. I guess people were talking about the OGL then, but boy, they had no idea how hot this was going to get, right? So this is a true firestorm. So now we're in the 2023 D&D Spring Firestorm, right? Like, and people and other. I'm not the only D&D commentator who talks about this. Like, it is astounding the increased engagement that D&D is getting, and this is just proof of it, right? And also, and I'm gonna, so this is all connected. So the other thing is, like, it's the same thing, right? Hasbro has done nothing convertible. We're literally talking about leaks, right? And this story is 100 times larger than anything talked about right now on the OSR, anything talked about on Indie, right? And that's part of the issue is you are seeing Arcane Library, brilliant content. If you haven't been over to Arcane Library, go check out their Arcane Library material. And so they create content that is not OGL. That's the stuff I use, and they create content that is OGL. And every serious OGL talk, is now talking about, they're having the Mastodon talk, right? Oh, I don't like Twitter. I'm going to run over to Mastodon and I'm going to do everything I did here on Twitter and Mastodon. And then they get over on Mastodon and realize there's 4 people and a raccoon over there. And then they run back to Twitter, right? And that's the issue is everybody's like, oh, I don't like all this stuff happening on Dungeons & Dragons and everything those creatives did, everything those D&D corporates did, and everything the D&D community has done. No, I could easily replace it, right? And then they run off, right? And they're like, oh, man, this is a freaking wasteland. Oh, wow, what happened? Oh, no. Oh, the D&D creatives that I whined about every D&D canon hardback they put out, and I snidely said that they weren't making the best content. Oh my gosh, the stuff here over in the OGL is either horrific, new TSR, or lackluster, about every other OSR and indie group, or it's brilliant and nobody cares, right? Like, and this is and I'll tell you right now, like, everybody's like, oh, Elon Musk is an idiot. Let's forget the fact that that he single-handedly transformed the e-car industry. Let's forget the fact that he is single-handedly competing with NASA, an entire department of the government. He's handling Twitter the way I don't like it, so he's an idiot, right? Like, and then, and everybody's like, oh, I'm going to replace this thing that's been building for 20 years by running over to this scrub no-name content thing. And that's the OGL, right? Everybody's complaining, but I'm telling you, OGL content creators, you got nowhere to go. You haven't done the work. You simply haven't done the work. CCC. Okay? All right. So basically, you just haven't done the work. Okay? Dungeons & Dragons has been around for 50 years. You ain't going to replace it overnight, right? And here's the kicker. If you want to really, if you actually want to compete with Dungeons & Dragons, are you ready to lose everything that's been lost to build Dungeons & Dragons? You're forgetting something, right? You're forgetting 12 years of Gary Gygax building this and then losing his marriage, right? He sacrificed a marriage to build Dungeons & Dragons. You're forgetting Lorraine Williams, who labored from 1986 to 1997 so that Ben Riggs could go to her at the end of her life and beg her for an interview, and her tell her, you can go kick rocks, because I've seen 100 of you middle-aged white men who come here asking me for an article and then write a hit job on me, right? Like, it's just, you're forgetting Lorraine Williams, who did everything to guardianship and build value in Dungeons & Dragons, only to have a parade of middle-aged white men castigate her and say she was a bad manager, as Ben Riggs has made thousands of dollars on the back of the work Lorraine Williams did, and he used his book to castigate her, insult her, disrespect her, tear her legacy to the ground, in my humble opinion. It's abominable, right? And that's where we're at. All of this, right? Guess what? You ain't gonna like to hear this, but I'm gonna tell it to you right now. Right now, CCC, right now, okay, is the time for the OGL to die. And by the way, I'm going to collect my I was right check, okay? I was right. A week before the leak leaked, I said the OGL isn't going to die, they're going to throttle it, right? Technically, it'll be alive, but functionally, it will be dead. I 100% called it. I got the receipt. Go check my video. A week and a half before this, I called it. I told you exactly what would happen, right? And now is the time for the OGL to die. Why should the OGL die right now? Okay, here's why. When Ryan Dancy brought it out in the early 2000s, it was necessary. But right now, it is just derivative designers making some cheddar off of D&D's work, right? And that does not need to be preserved in any way, all right? Dungeons & Dragons, D&D canon hardbacks from 5th edition alone. Let's not even talk about any other edition, right? You need the PHB, the DMG, and the MM. Everybody's got it. They made them invaluable. You know what else has become invaluable? Tasha's and Xanathar's. You know what else has become invaluable? Strahd, right? That's 6 books minimum out of about close to 40 now that every dungeon master worth her salt has, right? What's the critical OGL that you need? Nothing. Everything, every derivative piece that's been built on the OGL is nothing, not needed, not rememberable, not needed. And sorry, nothing in the tabletop role-playing game escapes the orbit of Dungeons & Dragons. And guess what? Almost nothing that happens in 2022 with Dungeons & Dragons doesn't go right back to Matthew Mercer. So where are we? What is actually happening, right? All this is happening because of Matthew Mercer. And you know what? Here's the reason we're having this OGL 1.1, which is Hasbro, in my humble opinion, come in and say, we're going to throttle and kill the OGL. And the reason why is we're not going to stand here, right, and make people millions and have them snidely ignore us with no thanks. And that's exactly what Mercer is doing, right? He has become a millionaire. Marisha Ray has become a millionaire. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Amazon deal alone, right, on Legends of Vox Machina has made each one of these people millionaires, okay? Sam Riegel has become a millionaire. Travis Willingham has become a millionaire. Ashley Johnson has become a millionaire. Laura Bailey has become a millionaire. Taliesin Jaffe has become a millionaire. Have you ever seen a single one? CCC. Have you ever seen a single one of them? Have you ever seen a single one of them? Have you ever seen a single one of them just sing the praises of the master that is feeding the dog? No, they are biting the hand. It's always a side look. It's always Tal'Dorei Reborn. It's always, oh, here's our show that was built brick by brick with Dungeons & Dragons. You don't get a penny, Hasbro. You don't get a penny, Wizards of the Coast, right? And so, I like Matthew Mercer, right? But we're in it, man. We are in it, right? And this is my entire point. You have no idea what Dungeons & Dragons is. You don't understand that right now we are seeing the future of intellectual property, property ownership, the future of world mixing. Things are happening on Dungeons & Dragons that are not happening in any other industry, right? And Hasbro's like, enough. We are tired of building this empire and making castles for people who bite our hand, throw snide jokes, never acknowledge the work we do, right? Y'alls can go kick rocks and we will throttle the OGL 1.0. I think that's what they're saying. I think that's what Dungeons & Dragons is. I think that's what Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro is saying. They're tired. They're tired. Just like George Lucas. The community was wrong. They were like, oh, you did a bad job on the prequels, George, and now we're going to mock you mercilessly. And I, Mike Stocklasa, I'm going to build an empire and make millions off of you, mocking you, right? And never really acknowledging that your brilliance and your genius has literally put food in my mouth, right? It's disrespect. The OGL creators are not doing anything transformative. They're disrespecting Dungeons & Dragons. They're disrespecting Wizards of the Coast. They are disrespecting Hasbro. And I am hoping the OGL gets completely throttled. It is absolutely correct for it to die. We had 20 years of it. It was useful when it began. It serves zero purpose today. Zero purpose. And in my opinion, is damaging to the legacy of Gygax, to the legacy of Dungeons & Dragons, and to the legacy of Hasbro, right? And I'm kind of surprised that I'm actually getting more and more invested in the legacy of Hasbro itself, right? If you guardian D&D, I care for you. I'm in your corner. If you have given me the joy of Dungeons & Dragons for 2 decades, right, and made it grow, I'm in your corner. One of the things I've been looking at recently is I bought the G.I. Joe. Actually, I got the G.I. Joe RPG as a gift, and I've been reading it, and that's been pushing me over to just look at the history of G.I. Joe, all under Hasbro. Incredible, right? And it's incredible. Like, I can't believe all the things that Hasbro has done, and we give them no credit. We're thankless to them, and it's wrong. Our response to what is happening is outrageously wrong, outrageously unfair, and I am hoping for the OGL to be completely throttled so that D&D can run on its own, create quality books, not stuff that needs to be stickered up like a Gundam model, right? Not stuff where, not OSR energy, indie energy, stickered up books that are bowed at, like it's. I want quality, right? And I'm really tired of all the GarageBand energy connected to the OGL. D&D don't need it anymore. And here's my last point for this video, okay? Everybody's like, what are you going to do when the OGL isn't there? And you're not going to be able to push forward Dungeons & Dragons with new ideas. Hey, OGL 1.0 creators, I got a little secret for you. Y'all's going to be replaced in about 1 second, right? You know why? Because we're going to have we already have a flow of brilliant young creators coming in from Critter. And D&D, Honor Among Thieves, is going to send 1 million people who never looked at the OGL 1.0 and will happily sign the 1.1 and create content that makes your stuff look as dusty and crusty and old and forgettable as it is. The reason these OGL 1.0 creators are quaking in their boots and why they're making such a dusty uproar, right, is they know they can be so easily replaced right? DeMar Hamlin this week, right? Look at the level of, and when he woke up, he was like, hey, who won the game? You know why? Because he knows there are 10,000 men waiting to take his place. And the OGL, you're like, oh, nobody's going to accept a 1.1. There'll be 1,000 creators in a month creating 1.1, and your dusty, crusty 1.0 stuff will be so forgotten so fast, it'll make your head spin. Right? So if you hear a dusty uproar, if you hear a fiery uproar from the OGL 1.0s, it's because they're terrified that they will be so swiftly replaced. And frankly, I think with better content. All of that is my humble opinion, right? I really would love to hear your humble opinion. Get in the comments. Send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.